Hi, I'm Rob Duffy. You're watching the Ship It Show. I'm here today with Tammy Perkins, Chief People Officer at Fury, great company based here at Galvanize with us. Today we're going to be talking about scaling and growing your team, your tech team, and some of the cultural issues that happen when you do that. I think it's often the case where teams are looking to expand their capabilities in software development, and they bring in new people, they bring in new ideas, they bring in new thinking, which is very welcome and very productive. But there's also sometimes cultural issues that you face when you bring in new people, and sometimes you're bringing them into an environment that doesn't have a strong tech culture already. And I think we've talked a little bit before we came in here about 3 ways that you can help with that transition, and 3 ways that you can help develop a team and grow a team quickly while making sure that it's successful. So we talked about diversification of the roles and the people that you're hiring, and making sure that you're hiring not for your strengths but for your weaknesses, I think is one of the things you said. And then empowering those people when they're coming in, and then also being open to change. So first of all, thanks very much for coming on the show. It's great having you here.
Thanks for inviting me.
So when we talk about diversification in hiring, what does that mean, and how do you diversify the roles when you're thinking about tech?
One of the key factors to success is making sure that you don't hire people just like you.
Right.
Instead of hiring for a culture fit, look for a culture add. The missing voice that's at the table, someone that will add different skills or credibility to the team and different experiences. That will help drive innovation and new ideas as you continue to evolve, and people will learn and grow from different experiences.
Some of the things I've seen here, people often hire, to your point, to their strengths, and they end up with a very undiversified table of opinions, and that's difficult, especially in tech. Because the interview process is so in depth and is very focused on how that person fits culturally. You talk about that cultural fit. So how do you balance that need for someone that fits with the team culture, but then brings something to the culture in that process of hiring?
In the hiring process, it's very important to map out the critical skills that you need for that role, and role definitions, establishing what some of the key capabilities the team is missing, what that role will bring to the team, and also focus on some of the skill sets that will future-proof the company, not just for today, but hiring for the new skills that you need on the team.
Right, and I think when you talked earlier about hiring for your cultural, not deficiencies, but not hiring to your strengths, hiring to your weaknesses. Yeah. One of the hardest things when we were setting up this team was actually identifying the weaknesses, right? Like that's a really introspective process. Like, where is the team weak, and where can we improve is actually an exercise that not many people are deliberate or intentional about going through. They just kind of like, well, I know this is my weaknesses, but no one's actually sat down in a meeting and said, okay, let's map out and enumerate where are we strong and where are we weak as a team, and how do we supplement the areas where we're weak and not reinforce the areas where we're strong. I think that's an interesting exercise.
Yeah, and hiring for individual strengths will help the team, because people will be inspired to perform. When you're doing something that's in your sweet spot, it is motivating. It's from an employee perspective, you're amplifying that person's superpower. From a team perspective, you're leveraging the strength of others and focusing on what makes everyone unique will bring more to the team.
Great, and then the other thing, the second of the 3 things was empowering the people that you bring on. And this, I think, speaks to the superpower that you just mentioned. Like, how do you make sure that people that you're bringing on are empowered to succeed?
The decision-making process and giving people the opportunity to fail fast and make decisions. What I've learned is sometimes the fear of failure prevents people from being successful. Giving people the empowerment to make decisions, to drive forward, and having a culture where you're asking feedback and you're empowering the team to be able to make decisions and come to you as a leader with decisions, and it's not all top down, it's bottoms up.
What? How are some of the ways that you can do that? Like what? I know you mentioned empowering people to make those decisions, and I know you mentioned talking about the ways that you can ensure that you fail fast, and I think the other was continuous learning or making sure that there's a good culture of learning. What are your thoughts there?
In terms of learning, it's crucial so that you avoid groupthink and people are continuing to learn new skills and they're bringing new ideas to the table. Role modeling that from a team, having different types of processes within the team or mechanisms where you're sharing out, here's some new things that I learned this week, and it could be something that is outside of the particular project the team's working on. It can be something that is sharpening their skill set as they continue to evolve.
Okay, and the third thing that we mentioned as a critical thing is being open to change. This is an interesting one. What are your thoughts here?
As you scale a team, flexibility is critically important to your growth. It helps you future-proof the operation, the company. If you have people who have a learner mindset and they're agile, they will be able to scale with new ideas for the future. So that you can look at that through the hiring process and hire for the future versus hiring for the particular role that you have, people that will continue to scale. Also, through your development process, asking the team, what are some ways that we can be better? Continuous feedback and improvement is important for a team to be able to scale.
How do you? I often find that when I'm building a new team, I have an image in my head of what that role is going to be. I sell someone on that role. Then they hit the ground, and within the first 2 weeks, everything changes because what I envisioned the role was going to be is different from what's actually needed, and the role shifts. How do you deal with those shifts? Like that seems like such a common scenario when you're growing a team and you're not just swapping out an existing role. Like what's the best way to deal with those?
Well, first of all, hire for the future. Make sure that you hire people who are scrappy and agile enough where they can evolve. And so what got you here today won't get you there for the future. And think about people who are resourceful enough. If the role changes, or you triple in size, or sell a new product or do something completely different, that people will be able to evolve and adapt. So my biggest advice on hiring is don't hire for that particular role, hire for people who can scale with your company.
Right, so hire a person and put them in a role. It is difficult though when you've sold that person on the role and then you leave it for a little period. How do you approach that conversation with people when you realize that the role has changed, or the need has changed and the role isn't quite the same, and that can be a difficult conversation sometimes.
When you're thinking about building for the future, look at some of the long-term strategies that you have, and I would recommend selling candidates and your existing employees on the future.
Right.
And on the values that you have for the company and what your long-term strategy is. If you get really narrowly focused on a particular role, you may miss out on some of the great things that are going to happen in the future, and
right.
your company and some of the opportunities that will exist in the future. Build your team around that.
I think tech is uniquely positioned in that fact that the roles kind of change and ebb and flow. it's almost like pouring water on a cracked floor, you know, like they head in one direction and they drop off and then they go, like the water tries to find where the right opportunities are. And I think that's the same in tech, where an organization evolves and different things become important over time, and you're hiring that fungibility is really important. And I think maybe setting those expectations up front is important as well. You know, like this is going to change. This is the role now, but in 3 months' time, this is a different role.
Well, hiring for tech organizations, one of the key things that I tell people is the one thing that you can expect to remain the same is change. There will constantly be change, and we need talent who will be able to evolve with that change.
Amazing. So one last thing I wanted to cover off real quick is people bringing cultures to an organization. Oftentimes we see with some of the people that we work with that a solution to a tech capability is hiring a very senior person or senior people and bringing their expertise to the table. And sometimes they come with their own very strong embedded cultural opinions about how things should change. And sometimes the culture within the company isn't non-existent, but it's weaker than the strength of the opinions that are being brought in. And what are some of the things that a company can do to help make sure that transition is the same? Like how do you make sure the minds meet, as it were, and that the identity of that team, but also the skills and the knowledge that person's bringing are sort of merged in a successful way?
That's when you anchor the leadership values as a part of your organization, not just what they do, but how they do it and how they deliver. And that becomes a key success factor. And it's not just words that you have in your handbook or something that's on your website. You live it and you breathe it and you own it. And that's how you define success. And that is a non-negotiable trait that experienced leaders come in, and while they bring this great depth of experience, they're also a part of the leadership values that your company role models, and they need to role model that as well.
But you need to have them written down, and you need to internalize them first, and then you can bring that person on board, and then you can say, this is the way that we do things.
Yes, and here are examples of what success looks like when you do this, and here are examples of when you aren't role modeling these behaviors.
Or even a good approach, maybe we haven't quite figured out what this means in a tech organization. You know, we're a shoe manufacturer. We haven't quite figured out what this core competency or vision statement means for a tech organization. Can you help us figure that out? And then collaboratively, you're helping merge the two cultural elements of that leader in the company.
Perfect.
Fantastic. Well, thanks very much for coming on the show. It's been great having you here.
Thanks for having me.